The church was established April 25th, 1938 with 65 members. Services began in October of the same year at Brickell House. 1616 Brickell House was 1660 on naturally Brickell Avenue. Purchased in January 1942 for $13,500.
As I say, it was a conventional transplant of a Unitarian church from New England at that time. And to me, the Unitarian church has been about 3 or 4 different kinds of Unitarian churches as it has progressed through this very, very changing 1900s. And nowhere near the same approach to things. Miami was very segregated, very, very southern church. A section of it was known as Little Georgia, and that's what it was. And to us, it was a place that we wanted to flee from. You see, these New Englanders had gotten together and wanted to establish the church here. We still made a good impact on Miami, because people now don't realize there was no television in those days. There was no theater in Miami. The Dade County Auditorium wasn't built until 1949. Very little music. The symphony orchestra played out of the Miami High Auditorium. It was the University of Miami Symphony Orchestra. There were no forums of any kind, and that's where the Unitarian Church made its mark. They used to say that the place to go on Friday nights in Miami was to the Unitarian Church.
On January 2nd, 1950, Miami's first integrated nursery school opened at our new church building located on Dixie Highway and what is now I-95.
The Unitarian Church was the only place really which was open to blacks, because when I came to Miami, we had black fountains for black waters for black people, and we had black bathrooms, and we had black facilities, and we had white facilities, and everything, and courthouse too. The courthouse had drinking fountains that for many years had colored. The beach was only for whites, and the blacks had a beach that they opened on Virginia Key. But up to that time, blacks could not be on Matter of fact, if the black person was on Miami Beach after sundown, he was subject to immediate arrest.
And John Papandrew was the minister during the height of the civil rights battle in the South. John was, as I'm sure most people remember, a firebrand in the pulpit, and carried with him most of the congregation. The outstanding event of that period, that I recall, of course, was the March on Selma in March of 1965. The first march that was called upon was to go from Selma to the Capitol at Montgomery to protest the lack of voter registration of blacks. The result was the infamous Sunday almost massacre, one could call it, on the Pettus Bridge, where the sheriff's people, deputies, used tear gas and dogs to set upon the people. And Dr. King, as a result, called for the following Tuesday a second march to keep the protest alive, and requested that all clergy or laymen from all over the country come to Selma to participate in this. When we finally got the word, left the church and walked, must have been a good quarter of a mile, maybe more, through the main streets of Selma to jeers and catcalls and obscene remarks from the populace along the street. And then we walked over the bridge. Now, that bridge, Pettus Bridge, has a very high arc. So when you approach it, you can't really see what's on the other side till you're practically up to the top. And when you get up to the top of the bridge, we look down upon this this phalanx of centurions, sheriff's deputies and good old boys armed with clubs, dogs held on the leash, and I suppose somewhere tear gas. As I thought about it later, I thought that what I'd really seen was the face of fascism in America. John and I and another man from Atlanta whose name I can't recall, and two young ministers, Jim Reed and Olaf Miller, went to a restaurant in the black section. When we finished our dinner, we left the restaurant, stood around outside on the sidewalk talking for a few minutes, and as chance would have it, Cliff and I and John, Rep. Andrew, turned to the left to walk to where we had parked our car. Jim Reed and Olaf Miller turned to the right, and it was shortly after that, maybe only half a block away, that Jim and Olaf were attacked by a gang, and Jim was beaten to death with a 2x4, and Olaf was severely injured. There are no words to express how saddened and how outraged the whole community felt.
Well, I've been a member here since 1964, and I came here as a newly divorced mother of two very young children, looking for a place where I could find something for them, and I found something for me as well. I became involved in the religious education program very early on because I really loved what they were teaching and what the basic philosophy was. It was really a delightful experience. It has its bad points. You know, churches are political arenas, and there's no way around that. And you're going to have politics that will get in and out of things and so on. But for the most part, it was splendid. Most of the people here are able to talk openly and honestly about the things that are important to them. They're activists. They don't just complain about things. They are out there working and doing what needs to be done. And there was a time years ago when I was also out there doing some of the marching and what have you. But my best experience has been when I've been working with people and teaching them about what these things are that we should be supporting. In the next 10 years, I would really love to see them build the RE program so that it can have the potential, because we have such wonderful stuff to offer. And I mean wonderful stuff when you stop and realize what we can teach children that's honest and that's pure, that's not adulterated with the stories like, if I should die before whatever. That's not something to be teaching little children, because little children are sometimes afraid to go to sleep. I would like to see us expand more on the issues that have to do with the gay and lesbian groups. We're doing wonderful things now, but I'd like to see it continue. I would like to see us get a much greater intermingling of adults, ages of adults in the congregation, so that we have the opportunity to keep on moving, to keep on growing. Okay. For me personally, the Alliance is very important because of the involvement of the women that are a part of it. Plus, once again, we can do things. We do things.
The situation with the Alliance is usually we wait until some problem comes up, and if we can help with it, we do. I mean, we're ready. The women of the Alliance have provided the church with all of its kitchen equipment for 3 situations. The first situation was when the church was in the bottom floor of a 2-story house. The minister lived on the 2nd floor, and we provided a kitchen and furnished it. Then the second time was when we were in the church on the highway, and again the women stepped forward and did the whole thing, provided the kitchen and furnished it. And then again when we came to this church. I'm very proud to be a member of the Alliance, and I hope that it will continue for many years and continue serving.
The name of the committee is the Lots Music Committee, and it was formed in 1981 in honor of two former members of our congregation and choir who died. Their names were John and Goldie Lots, and they were renowned singers. John and Goldie, when they died, left the money from the sale of their home to our congregation. And the minister at the time, Reverend Linnea Pearson, and the board decided that they wanted to set up in their honor this Lots Committee, which would foster music. And the first big undertaking is the piano that's over my shoulder. That piano has great fame and brings awe to anyone who touches it, and we've had some pretty amazing pianists use it. Well, anyhow, the committee was formed, and one of the important things that we do, and they have always done, was to enhance Sunday services for the minister. And so once a month, special musicians were hired to enhance the service, and we do that to this day.
And I'd pay thee before I go, and I'd roll you in my arms, let the winds blow high or low.
One of the things the community gets from us is jazz concerts. Now, in the very beginning, we did a few jazz and a couple of classical, but the classical really didn't seem to fly too much for a number of reasons, one of which is that there are so many venues that present classical music, and we really couldn't compete. Whereas in jazz, if you really wanted to hear exceptional jazz, without benefit of bar glass clinking and drunks, you know, calling out for a second one and all of that, and to just sit and hear good jazz, this was the place. And it still is. People are disaffected from formal church going and synagogue going. So we have to become less like a bureaucracy in the mind of people, I guess, and more jazz-like. There's a great democracy in jazz, and I think there's a great democracy in Unitarian Universalism, and we have to get that message out, and we have to be more flexible, and we have to, I think, make people see that we are the path, which is very Buddhist sounding, but I think that's what we have to do.
In the last 14 years, I've seen a lot of changes. One which is related to what we're, discussing today is the welcoming congregation. When we first initiated the welcoming congregation, we had one openly gay member of our congregation at that time, and so with going through the process and becoming more welcoming, we have more than 15 members now that identify as, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender. So it just has allowed us to be more welcoming and open and welcoming. In 2007, we decided that we were going forward with the welcoming congregation, and there's a series of like 14 different workshops. We did 13 of them. And one of the things you attempt to try to do is have at least 50%, and we reached that goal. Over 50% of the congregation participated in at least one of the 13 different workshops. One of the things that kept coming over and over again is a lot of gay, lesbian people would say, you know what, I am an accomplished young adult and I'm all these other things, and I just happen to be gay. And so when you label me as gay and that becomes what you think of me as, I am the representative of gay, you're looking at 5% of me and you're not seeing me. Well, people want connection, and people want to be heard, and people want to, I think those are two big things. I mean, I think sometimes young adults feel like the world is run by 50, 60-year-olds, and therefore whatever they say doesn't have that much credence with other people. So this is one of the reasons why young people are being invited onto different boards. I think our board has a young adult member. I'm trying to get that instituted in some other groups that I'm in, and I'm fighting, you know, why do we need, you know, why is young adult a special category, target group? And it's like, well, when we think that we, you know, and I gave examples, we interpret what do 20, 30-year-olds want and need. And as 50-year-olds, we can have a little idea, but actually go ask a dozen different 20 and 30-year-olds, and you'll actually get different answers.
Two Unitarian congregations in the country were doing the Toy Soldier Project. I was chair of the Social Justice Committee, so I took this idea to the committee and we adopted it and we brought it to the congregation, and what it was taking plastic toy soldiers, like you see here, tying tags to their legs, and it said, "Bring them home," and it said Social Justice Committee, Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Miami, and our website. At the time, 70% of Americans were against the Iraqi war. And on one side of the tag, of course, we said, "Bring them home," and on the other side, we had the name and phone numbers of our U.S. senators. So the idea was to take them and drop them in among the produce in the grocery store, put them on the shelves by the canned goods, take them to the library, the hair salon, the parks, wherever congregants went. They were encouraged to take these soldiers. And it was really wonderful and remarkable how the congregation got behind it. You know, to see them sit Sunday after they would have their lunch and tie tags on. I mean, one person, a dozen people couldn't tie all the tags that we needed. We needed to print them, we needed to put the labels on and then tie them onto the plastic soldiers. We needed to buy the plastic soldiers. Of course, Unitarians being who they are, there were those who were worried about legal ramifications, so we checked with attorneys, and we decided that if any people from shopping centers or Publix or CVS or the library complained about it, they were to be directed to me, and I would say, "Okay, well, I'm sorry, and we won't do it again." Whoever decides to be in charge of social justice, I've always had the sense that for them it was heartfelt and meaningful, and they worked hard. So certainly we can always do more, and there's plenty being done too.
To be a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church, or the UU Church, I don't really know. I just got plopped in here one day. Well, when I wake up on a Sunday morning and my parents tell me, "Come on and get dressed," I don't complain, so I guess the UU church is not a bad thing.
Well, I've always been a UU. I actually became a UU in New York. When I was 19, I was in college, and I was a non-church goer. And then I guess somebody who was looking for answers and found the UU congregation. It was actually a church, First Unitarian Church of New York. And when I went there and asked people questions, nobody knew the answers, and I thought, this is my congregation. They're looking, they don't know the answers, and I don't know the answers. I found out that we had a capsule that had been buried in 1980, and it was actually my second year of presidency in 2002. People kept saying we didn't have a minister, we had an interim minister. Let's wait, let's wait. I said, no, let's not wait. And so here it is, an acid-free binder, all the contents of the time capsule, and there are drawings by children, and it's wonderful. And I now sadly realize that we haven't done another time capsule, so maybe it's time to start a new one. the path to our door is an individual search. I think people find us when in their hearts they're ready. And as I mentioned, this hourglass concept that I have, I feel we've come, and I think we're slowly going up, and our glass will be completely full, because we're providing sanctuary for all these people who are questioning, who don't have answers. And like me, they can live without answers, but they can't live without each other, without humanity. You're smiling.
Good answer.
I'm Ray/Marvin, whatever, Baumel, and I've been coming to this congregation since 1948 with my then fiance, and we were married in 1949 by the president of the congregation because we couldn't afford to fly down to Minister Joe Barth in those days. So actually been coming since, you do the math, 1948. My daughter Andrea Mustelier, and her son, my grandson, Derek Mustelier. I'm delighted. I call ourselves the G3, 3 generations of UUs, which is not uncommon up in the Northeast, or maybe in other denominations, but is certainly uncommon in this congregation as far as I know.
Andrea, would you tell me the story of how you came back to this church?
Came back to this church. Well, I hadn't been coming to the church for a while. You know, I come on occasions, big occasions, little occasions, but really wasn't that active. We would come on Christmas Eve, that was our regular thing. But Derek and I came one Sunday morning because it was my dad's birthday, and we were gonna have a little cake for him. I think it was like maybe his 85th, I'm not sure.
It was a poetry service also.
And it was a poetry service, which Derek was very much into poetry. So we thought we would come to church that day, and did, and had a great time. And as we left and we were in the car, Derek and I, Derek turned to me and said, you know, I think I want to start coming every Sunday. I said, you do? Does that mean I have to come too? But we did, and I did, and we've been coming ever since.
Derek, why?
Why have we been coming ever since?
Yeah, what happened at that service that said, you know what, I want to go back?
I guess part of it was just the fact that this was, you know, a church that was kind of having a whole service to celebrate poetry. That's, you know, that's not really something you see every day. And I thought that was really cool. And really what's always kept me coming back are the amazing people here. I mean, you just meet the most genuine, passionate people, and the sweetest folks, and you know, always doing their best to make people feel welcome and stuff. So that's the main thing that keeps me coming back over and over.
Come, young citizens of the world, we are one. We are one.
It's choir. I joined the choir. My mom had been a member of the choir. So for me, I call it my spiritual reality. That's the part that I really enjoy the most, is being able to sing with a group. They say that choirs that sing together, their heartbeats beat at the same time. That you really, I guess that's with the music maybe, I don't know. But there's just something about singing together on Thursday nights, and then coming together and doing it on Sunday morning that just I enjoy thoroughly. And in addition to the fact that, you know, the 3 generations are sitting there in the 3rd row together, and there's something very special about that too, being able to have my son on one side and my dad on the other is just kind of a cool thing.
It's such a comfortable place. I don't know how to describe. When I was a conference speaker for about almost 40 years, traveling. Whenever I was anywhere on a weekend, I would go out of my way to go to find out where there was a Unitarian fellowship or church, and to go to the service. And there's the feeling, even though I knew no one, walking in on a Sunday morning, anywhere from Indianapolis to Honolulu. I mean, the dress was different, muumuus, which, well, we don't wear yet in this church, but who knows, there's hope.
Anything is possible.
Right? But walking into a place where, even though we don't think alike, there's a common denominator, knowing how we feel about things. And that common denominator, to me, was always Unitarianism.
It's interesting because when you were talking about the feeling you get of going around to different congregations, and every time, no matter, you don't know anybody, but you feel like you know everybody. And when you were saying that, I was thinking of General Assembly, which is that feeling times 10.
I think that there are a multitude of closet UUs out there. The so-called non-religious sector, as far as demographics are concerned, and that's not my profession, but seems to be growing, and non-affiliated, so-called. And invariably, when somebody comes, or I have a friend come, and whatever occasion, say, hey, I didn't even know about this place, and they always mix it up with the Unity, you say, oh, Unitarian Church. Oh, Unity, by the way, no.
Oh, so, United Church of Christ?
No. This is the place to come when you don't want to go to church.
Yeah, church for people that
don't
like organized religion.
Right.
We're disorganized religion.
Disorganized religion.
Yeah. Without fail, anytime there's a new person at this church, it's because they sought us out, not the other way around. And I always tell them, like, yeah, I mean, liberal religion is very good about keeping itself a secret. And it's starting to change a little bit. I mean, I read a thing recently that religious liberalism, or liberal religion, whatever you want to call it, is growing, especially among young people, and that are rejecting a lot of the conservative religion, the dogma and the cultural warfare, so to speak. So it's a crucial time in terms of that, and an exciting time to be a Unitarian Universalist, I'd say.
I go to a school with many people of different cultures and backgrounds and religions, and so I get a bit of taste of everything. And there's nothing like this. There's no community as loving and caring as this, and it's it's a highlight of my week, and I want to keep that going.
I like running around the labyrinth.
You do? What is the labyrinth?
It's a big circle where you can like walk around.
Okay. Do you know what the labyrinth is?
It's where you could talk around and walk around.
Spiritual reality keeps me here now, and we started that about 20 years ago. And as a matter of fact, the labyrinth did evolve out of the spiritual reality. We were reading a book about labyrinths. It's an ancient tool, probably 25,000 years ago. In the Isle of Crete, they built one. A beautiful labyrinth there that people have found over the years. They've found them in caves, on stones and pottery. The labyrinth has got a long, long history, so we decided to build one here. I've realized that over the years that it's women who are attracted to this labyrinth. All the people that have worked on it have all been women. A woman who's working on it now, she's the one that's done all this mulch, this beautiful woman. She's not even a member of the church. She just does it because she needs to do it. When we built the labyrinth, we had a huge big tree here, and that's why we built it here. That was one of the reasons. The other reason was the minister, who was Joe Kioski at the time, told us this was the spot we could have. I suppose he wanted us as far away from him as possible. It's a walking meditation It's a way to just get to the center, to be in the center, and then to walk out. It's a quiet time for me. So the spiritual reality is my first love. Yeah.
Why?
Because we share our thoughts and our feelings, and we listen to each other. And it's very empowering to have people listen to you. Just like now, you're listening to me. It's very empowering.
This is what's called the Friendship Garden. However, it's essentially known most of the time as the Memorial Garden. And the reason being that we have sort of converted it into a special place where we can acknowledge those persons who have died, whom we have great fondness for, and who are very much a part of our memories. People don't even know this place exists. And I think it's really important for people to be much more aware. In 2000, or a little before that, Giselda Joseph, who was really a very creative and innovative person here, got to thinking about this and decided we needed to do something about the garden because it was very unkempt. It did not have that lovely walkway. So several people got together with her and created what they called the Memorial Garden. Well, the Alliance wanted to be involved, and they thought they should name it the Friendship Garden. So they have that plaque back there that says the Friendship Garden, but we really call it the Memorial Garden. Essentially, it's a friendship garden that encircles the memorial circle. The stones are actually purchased by someone who wants to remember somebody. I have two of them right there from my sisters, Marie Smith and Veronica Lynch. And my stone will go on the top because I'm the oldest. Anyway, anyone who is a member of the church community may buy one of the stones. They're $100 at the present time. And we then make arrangements for the engraving. And the best part about this is the wonderful service that we offer. We have a lovely service of remembrance and a dedication of the bricks. Now, people can buy a brick for the entranceway there, so that that's for the people who are still alive and would like to have something special to look forward to. Their families can anyway. And then the brick is transferred here when someone has died. And we have the service built around the numbers of people who are involved in that ceremony.
The project was a dramatic performance that we put on in the spring of 2004 for Mother's Day weekend. And it was a liturgical drama. It was a script originally written by our then minister, the Reverend Dr. Lucy Hitchcock Seck, and it was called The Mysteries of Demeter. It took a life of its own. Eventually it mushroomed into these two performances over Mother's Day weekend. And we decided to make it a fundraiser, and we raised about $1,000, which we gave to Haitian Women of Miami, an organization.
Part of it for me was the bonding. There was such a strength of all these women from different age groups coming together and working together. I tried to get a dentist to direct us because I wanted to work on the acting, and it's hard to direct and act at the same time.
When you set up the environment, then at its best, a place like this, the congregation, can really nurture and develop creativity, community, and something that in the end turns out to be bigger than the sum of its parts.
Well, I mean, for me, the piece that we're working on right now, Opataki. Obviously, from the history of doing Demeter, I have very fond memories of the bonding process happening.
It creates a lab, a safety net for people to try things that are beyond their comfort zone. And that's something that is so critical that something like Opataki or the Mysteries of Demeter can provide, because basically it gave us the safety to try things we were not comfortable with doing. And I was the producer. Before I started this, I didn't even know what a producer did. But
now you'd like to forget.
Yes, exactly. But you know, and my cousin, the dentist, was a co-director. And similarly, you know, those of us who don't sew were sewing, but we were also drawing from other skills we already had, you know. But when you can do that for multiple people at the same time in the context of a group or a community, it's magic.
Even if people don't necessarily come to this piece, if we can get it out into the community, what it does is it allows people to hear or read or see on Facebook or something like that, that UUs are doing something that isn't necessarily just a sermon. But I'm really very, very happy that we did one 10 years ago, and I'm happy that I'm doing one now. And I don't know what I would commit to in the future, but I do think it's important.
What does the future hold for this church? Will we stand on this spot and tell our children and our grandchildren, this is where our church used to be? Miami without a Unitarian presence is unthinkable. In fact, there should be 2 or 3 UU congregations in a town this size. It's up to us whether or not our history ends here. A community the size of Miami with only 1 UU congregation is hard to believe. This year we're celebrating our 50th anniversary in this location and the 75th anniversary of our founding. We believe in deeds, not creeds. We are here because this religion believes in a different trinity: reason, freedom, and justice. It must be carried forward. That's it.